Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this channel, Learn British English Free on YouTube. My name is Chris. You will see a very different setup today, not entirely serious, but the subject of today's lesson has been requested by a follower on YouTube. Thank you, Sakindra. We've had a few comments in recent weeks. I appreciate it. So the request is to talk about learning Chinese in China, hence the background that you can see. A bit different to my normal style of British English, but I will be talking about it at least in an English accent. And the point is to explain some ideas, some experiences from moving to China last year until leaving China last month and the progression with language. I'll be talking more naturally in this lesson, so please use the English subtitles or captions on the screen to understand better. When I went there, I went to a city called Shenyang in the northeast of China, fairly close to Beijing. I had been studying Chinese quite a bit on my own, but it was a bit of a shock, certainly not easy to speak or understand many things. And I'll be discussing some good things and some bad things from that point of view, from the whole experience that we call immersion. Starting with the good things then, and immersion was first on my list. Immersion means when you basically learning a language, move to a new country where that language is the main one. Immersion means you cover yourself full of that language, trying to explain in a simple way. And of course, this was beneficial to me because I noticed significant improvements very quickly due to simply every time you go outside or talk to someone, you probably need to speak Chinese unless you're talking to another foreigner. But there are not many other foreigners there. So it's a very good chance to practice Chinese. You have lots of opportunities. And certainly in terms of moving from not being very comfortable at all to getting a bit more comfortable and starting to think in Chinese in some context, then taking advantage of those opportunities is crucial. So this depends if you want to learn the language or not. I met some people who didn't know any Chinese despite having lived there for years, which came as a surprise to me. I would certainly recommend it, especially in China, because very, very few people speak any English and very few things are actually in English. So if you don't know Chinese, you're going to struggle. That would be a key bit of advice from me about this. And you've certainly got the chances, right? So that's a good thing. Everyone will need to speak to you in Chinese. You can practice, you can learn as much as you want. And there's a strong motivation there in order to feel more comfortable, in order to feel more successful, if you like. It depends what you consider a success, but that motivation was daily in terms of wanting to get better, wanting to be able to communicate better, and so on. I've actually been talking about good things or good opportunities there. What about challenging things? Well, I mentioned about becoming more comfortable by practicing. So, of course, the flip side of that was that you often feel uncomfortable. It's difficult, and it's a thing I'll mention at the end is learning Chinese is hard. The locals recognize that. So it's uncomfortable and you have to push yourself. I never felt entirely at ease because I knew that I would really struggle talking to a lot of people. I may be able to understand roughly what they were talking about, but sometimes not even that. After some weeks, I went basically 2 times with one for each semester. After about 8 weeks or so, then you start to experience fatigue, which is a real shame because you've been there for it feels like a long time, 8 weeks, and you're constantly every day having to face the same challenges in terms of language, which is a good thing in many ways for improving, but it reaches a point quite quickly where you want to break from it, but you can't really in order to improve. And for me, I was working as a foreign teacher, Waijiao. Now, this is important because I found that I lacked the structure that I would ideally like. I didn't have time or energy for proper lessons, if you like, but even sometimes I didn't have time or energy to study when I went home. I would often get home late, tired, So there were some days or weeks when I was busy at work where I could barely learn or study anything consciously. And that ties into maybe a lack of discipline. I feel like I tried my best, but it, about basic materials. So something for me was that I was lucky to meet many wonderful people who I could spend time with and wanted me to wanted to teach me about their language and culture. But you ended up learning a lot of more advanced topics or specific cultural things rather than focus on going over the basics, practicing those, formulating those simple sentences, which would help you structure your language from the bottom up, if you like. So I think that was something I try to do better next time, is focus on those things. Another example is I like to watch or listen to the news every day, not so much recently. So I'd listen to the news or watch the news channels in China, even though I couldn't understand much of it. And it's hard to actually learn Chinese that way. I think it helped me improve my listening quite a lot, but in terms of learning things, you're better off consciously focusing on what you need to learn. So that's something I could do better and that I'd recommend. To learn Chinese is difficult. It's one, well, as an English speaker, it's one of the most difficult, maybe the most difficult language to learn in the world. And certainly I felt the strain of that over time. My progress was slow, and I don't think that was due to lack of effort necessarily. It's commonly recognized that learning the East Asian languages in particular is hard. So I suggest, if you're going to learn Chinese, best of luck to you. It will take a long time, so please bear that in mind. If I compare my progress in European languages compared to Chinese, and it's chalk and cheese, as we say, it's so much quicker. It's, multiple times quicker. So that was another thing that was draining over time. Having said that, in total, I recognize that I learned a lot, and so many people in China helped me. So I was honored for that, and hence very grateful and happy to be able to talk about my time there and the progress I made in Chinese and other things too. Thank you everyone for watching and listening. This might have been a bit difficult at parts for many of you, but I hope that there were some elements there which you found useful, especially for Sakindra, who kindly has been watching the videos recently and posting suggestions. So thank you, Sakindra. Please do post comments, feedback about this lesson and about my experience. What do you think? Do you have something similar to share or not? Anything at all, I will read it and reply. So thank you. I will be back soon with an easier lesson, I think probably about English, which will be helpful. So I will see you then. Thank you again for your time. I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.